exercises, reflections that can be conducted personally or in a classroom setting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so before you go, we just have a few questions. So,
I'm sorry if I can't hear you. Hello, Ife.
can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, I was asking, I said, the passion for technology and youth education, how do you go about that? Communication about technology and teaching your youth. How
Please,
exactly
please,
do
can you
you
take the
go?
question again? Can you take that question again? I didn't hear you clearly.
Okay, I said, before we take a deep dive into it, talked about your love for technology. So I wanted to know, because I think some persons would also like to know, technology and youth education, which you said you actually enjoy both. How did the combination and passion for those two come about?
That's an interesting question. So, I've always been fascinated by technology from the days of Microsoft Word's Clippy. Microsoft Word's Clippy was an animated assistant. So at a very tender age, when I saw that on my dad's office computer, I was fascinated, and I would go about afterward to tinker with various software to understand how they work. But maturing into an adult, I never really found my bearing professionally until about 2022, where I attended a Google Developers Conference and learned about machine learning. So I started on that path at the age of 28, and I increasingly came across young people in secondary schools and even in university who seemed to be walking in those same shoes, going on and not really knowing what they want to do professionally. So helping young people identify and navigate that path just became a natural response for me, since I had already had that unpleasant experience of late realization.
Wow, that's actually interesting. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to dive into the questions that guys wanted. So, the title, the book, how do you go about the concept?
I'm sorry, if you can you come again? Can you take that again, please?
Okay, I said, and now we're going to go into some questions regarding the book. I
Okay.
said that, yeah, I said that personally I've read the book, and unlike most people think the title that is just for young learners like children, I think even adults get valuable insight from the book, because when I read it, I actually got a lot of things. So now the question is this: how did you come about the concept or the inspiration to write this book?
Okay, okay. So the inspiration, I think I had answered that already, but I'm going to rephrase that. So I had a Meet the Mentor session at KIR Foundation, and the kids asked me, or the young learners asked me a lot of questions. Some of the questions they asked were like, can I be a doctor and still be in technology? Can I build can I build a machine? I can't remember the kid's name. I think his name was Favor. But he was like, can I build a machine that um, could help people grow plants in space and stuff like that? Those questions were quite fascinating. They were really, really fascinating to me, and it revealed the imagination of a young child, right? It revealed creativity, because a lot of times when we listen to young people, we think that sometimes we think that their ideas are not very grounded. But if we listen carefully, you could tell that they are speaking to possibilities that can happen in the future if you give them the right guidance. And so with all that interaction, I put it together in a book, and I decided to present it to the world. I'm believing that the values that I was able to communicate to the young learners that day should be democratized to as many people as possible.
Hmm, that's actually interesting. I like the fact that you want others to also benefit from this and not just the person that made you or the people, the set of children that actually gave you the inspiration to write the book. Thank you very much. Now, this
Thank you.
question comes, yes, this question comes from chapter 3 of the book, and it is the part where you share the story about learning with what you have. You said, and I quote, I didn't have a laptop of my own then or a super fast internet, but I had something more important, a desire to learn. I started using the office computer after work and often spent my nights at the office. I would go home briefly to freshen up and then return by 8 a.m. So, you essentially were encouraging others to do with what they have in that chapter. But in your case, it seemed a bit that you were kind of in a relatively enabling environment. Yes. So you had access to an office computer at the time, power, a bit of internet, and of course an accommodating employer. Now, at the same time, there is a lot of dissatisfaction, if I should say that, within the Nigerian academic system, particularly around curricula and resources that may not adequately prepare the average Nigerian child to compete globally. And when I say average Nigerian child, I mean children whose parents can only afford to maybe send them to mid-tier or probably public schools. So the question is this: how now does the idea of learning with what you have apply in this context? I mean, how can a child who genuinely has very little access to resources use that same principle to become a global competitor?
Thank you very much, Fifi. That's a very, very insightful question. And I should pause for a moment before responding to that. Hmm. So let's look at it this way, right? You know how during Champions League or the World Cup, right? Some bars, some street bars, and some spaces are made available for people to